Imagine you have finally finished a long week of work. You have checked every item off your to-do list, replied to the urgent emails, and managed to keep your life relatively organized. It is Friday evening, and you decide to sit down on the couch to watch a movie you have been meaning to see for months. You turn on the TV and settle in. But 10 minutes into the film, a familiar itching sensation starts in the back of your mind. You pick up your phone. You check your notifications. You put the phone down, but the feeling persists. It is a quiet, nagging voice telling you that you should be doing something else. You should be folding laundry. You should be reading that nonfiction book that makes you smarter. You should be planning next week. Even though you are physically sitting still, your mind is sprinting. You are unable to enjoy the rest you objectively earned. This inability to relax is not a personal failure of willpower. It is not because you are naturally high-strung or incapable of calmness. It is a psychological response to a very specific modern conditioning. We have begun to treat ourselves like machines. In the world of mechanics, a machine is only valuable when it is running. A car sitting in a garage is not fulfilling its purpose. A factory line that is stopped is losing money. We have internalized this logic and applied it to our own humanity. We believe that our value is inextricably tied to our output. When we stop producing, we feel that we stop mattering. But this analogy is fundamentally flawed. You are not a machine. You are a biological organism. And unlike machines, which wear out with use, biological systems require rest to repair, grow, and function. To understand why doing nothing feels so dangerous, we have to look at how we measure self-worth. For many of us, our self-esteem is performance-based. This is often called internalized capitalism. We have absorbed the economic principles of the marketplace, efficiency, growth, productivity, and turned them into the metrics of our soul. In a marketplace, time is money. Therefore, wasting time feels like wasting value. When you view your life through this lens, rest looks like a loss. It looks like dead time, where nothing is being generated. If you are not earning money, improving a skill, or managing a household task, your brain signals an error. It interprets stillness as a threat to your survival, because in a hyper-competitive world, standing still feels like falling behind. However, neuroscience offers a completely different perspective on what happens when you do nothing. For a long time, scientists believed that the brain went dormant when we weren't focused on a specific task. They thought it was like a light bulb turning off. But recent research has revealed the existence of the default mode network. This is a massive network of interacting brain regions that activate specifically when you stop focusing on the outside world. When you daydream, stare out a window, or let your mind wander, your brain does not shut down. In fact, it becomes incredibly active. The default mode network is responsible for some of our most critical mental functions. It is where we consolidate memories, make sense of our social interactions, and project into the future. Most importantly, it is the engine of creativity. When you are hyper-focused on a task, your brain is like a spotlight, illuminating only a small specific area. When you enter the default mode, the spotlight dims, and the brain begins to make loose, distant connections between seemingly unrelated ideas. This is why your best ideas often come to you in the shower or while washing dishes, rather than when you are staring at a blank document. By refusing to rest, you are not just making yourself tired, you are actively suppressing the neural network responsible for your deepest insights. We see this conflict between the need for rest and the demand for productivity play out in several distinct patterns in adult life. The first and most common pattern is the guilt of the slow morning. Imagine it is Saturday. You have no immediate obligations. You wake up later than usual, perhaps staying in bed until mid-morning. Instead of feeling refreshed, you feel a rising panic. You look at the clock and think, I have wasted half the day. You calculate how many hours remain and how much you can cram into them to save the day. This reaction treats time as a resource that can expire, rather than an experience to be lived. You start the weekend already in a deficit mindset, rushing to catch up on a schedule that you invented for yourself. A second pattern is the transformation of hobbies into side hustles or self-improvement projects. We rarely allow ourselves to have hobbies that are purely for fun. If you like baking, people ask when you will open a shop. If you like writing, you feel you should be publishing a blog. Even our consumption of media has become performative. We often force ourselves to read dense nonfiction or watch educational documentaries because we feel we need to be optimizing our brain at all times. We feel guilty for reading a trashy novel or watching a reality show because it isn't getting us anywhere. We have monetized our joy. We stripped the playfulness out of our leisure time and replaced it with a set of goals and metrics. If an activity doesn't have a measurable output, we deem it unworthy of our time. The third pattern is the inability to disconnect, even when we are geographically removed from our work. This is the classic scenario of checking emails while on a beach vacation. We might leave our laptops at home, but we keep the tether alive through our phones. This isn't just about bad habits, it is about safety. For someone suffering from productivity guilt, being completely out of the loop feels terrifying. We monitor the inbox not because we want to work, but because we want to ensure no disasters are happening in our absence. We are afraid that if we truly let go, the world will move on without us, or we will return to a catastrophe. As a result, the body is on vacation, but the brain is still in the office. The cortisol levels never actually drop. The consequences of this are severe. When we deny ourselves true rest, we enter a state of chronic depletion. We become irritable, our decision-making skills degrade, and ironically, our productivity plummets. We end up in a state of brownout, where we are physically present but mentally dim. To break this cycle, we need to stop waiting for permission to relax. The world will never give you permission. There will always be another email, another chore, and another goal. You have to claim the rest yourself, and you have to view it differently. One practical tool to reclaim your mental space is the practice of scheduled nothingness. This sounds simple, but for a productivity-obsessed brain, it is extremely difficult. You open your calendar and block out a 30-minute window. You label it nothing. During this time, the rules are strict. You cannot consume information, and you cannot produce output. You cannot listen to a podcast, you cannot text a friend, and you cannot tidy the room. You can sit, you can stare at the wall, or you can walk around the block without headphones. The first few times you do this, you will likely feel intense agitation. You will feel bored. You might even feel anxious. This is normal. That agitation is the withdrawal symptom of your dopamine addiction. Your brain is screaming for a stimulus. If you can sit through that initial discomfort, you will find that your mind eventually settles. The murky water clears. This practice trains your brain that it is safe to be offline. It reconnects you with your own thoughts rather than the thoughts of others. Another powerful tool is a linguistic reframe. We need to audit the words we use to describe our downtime. The most dangerous word in this context is lazy. Lazy is a moral judgment. It implies a character flaw. It suggests that you are refusing to do work that you should be doing. We need to replace lazy with recharging or recovery. Think of an elite athlete. When a runner takes a rest day, nobody calls them lazy. Everyone understands that the rest day is part of the training. The muscle growth happens during the rest, not during the run. Apply this logic to your cognitive labor. When you are lying on the couch, you are not being lazy. You are allowing your neurotransmitters to replenish. You are allowing your stress hormones to dissipate. You are engaging in active recovery. By changing the label, you change the emotional reaction. You move from guilt to purpose. You are not avoiding work, you are preparing for it. This shift helps to silence the internal critic because it gives the logical brain a reason to accept the inactivity. There is a prevalent myth that needs to be debunked, the idea that if we stop, we will lose our momentum and never start again. Many of us keep running because we are terrified of the inertia. We think, if I sit down, I will never get back up. We view our motivation as a fragile flame that will be extinguished by a stiff breeze. But motivation is cyclical, not linear. It is natural for energy to ebb and flow. Trusting that your energy will return is a form of self-confidence. The fear that you will become permanently stagnant is just that, a fear. It is not a reality. In fact, usually the opposite is true. The longer you force yourself to run on fumes, the harder it is to restart once you finally crash. A deliberate stop prevents an involuntary collapse. Let's look at a quick example of how this shift works in real life. Consider two people, Alex and Jordan. Alex believes that every hour must be utilized. On Sunday, Alex tries to multitask, listening to an educational audiobook while meal prepping and answering emails between tasks. By Sunday night, Alex feels accomplished but deeply wired and exhausted. Monday morning feels like a burden. Jordan, on the other hand, consciously decides that Sunday afternoon is for offline drift. Jordan leaves the phone in a drawer and spends 2 hours gardening without a goal or just napping. Jordan feels a pang of guilt initially, but breathes through it. By Sunday night, Jordan feels a sense of quiet. On Monday, Jordan tackles complex problems with a fresh perspective that Alex lacks. The difference wasn't the amount of time available, it was the permission to be unproductive. Ultimately, we must confront the core identity issue. We're called human beings, not human doings. Your existence is not a transaction. You do not have to earn your right to breathe, to take up space, or to enjoy a moment of stillness. The sunset does not need to be photographed to be beautiful. A walk does not need to be tracked on a fitness app to be healthy. A moment of silence does not need to lead to an epiphany to be valuable. As you move through your week, try to catch that inner voice that scolds you for slowing down. When you feel the urge to fill a quiet moment with a distraction, pause. Ask yourself, what am I trying to avoid feeling right now? Give yourself permission to just be. The work will always be there, but your sanity, your creativity, and your peace of mind, those are resources that you have to protect. You are allowed to power down. In fact, it is the only way you will ever truly keep going. What is one small block of time you can leave completely empty this week?